Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. In this particular podcast, I'm getting ready to speak about um, the part in the story where I was in Douglas County Jail. Um, they did have me in a inmate uniform that said state prison. I wasn't actually in the prison. I actually was just in the Douglas County Jail, and I was actually only in there for a driving on suspension. And of course, there was tons of things that actually happened while I was in that particular jail. But the interesting thing about it is that Earl Lee Butch Kimberling is the name of my child molester. As you could see, his inmate information. You could see when he was booked, when he was supposedly supposed to be released, and the original information and photographs that were taken during the time of 1998. The interesting thing about Atlanta, Georgia, specifically Douglas County, that jail that is there is that the jail that I was in this story, Earl Lee Boulevard, Douglas County Jail, is actually the same name as my child molester. Because you know that his name is Earl Lee Butch Kimberling. That's his name. And so that is a part of the story that they really didn't want to talk about. And so there's more to the story as well about the area of Fulton County Jail and the Fulton County area where this story was mostly spoken about. And the interesting thing about that, specifically about the Airway Motel, is the fact that Butch Kimberling supposedly, this picture that's right here is actually pictures of his house where he lives. Um, and this is actually the jail where he was supposed to have been booked. And as you can see, the address on there is 720 Central Avenue, Anderson, Indiana. And you know that the address of the Airway Motel is 720 Fulton County. And of course, it was called the Airway. Now, this is a picture of Butch and Sandy's house. This is a picture of their house. I actually went to try to meet with them, to speak with them, and they were hiding. They were nowhere to be found when I went to their house to speak to them. And as you can see with the pictures, it says that they are members of the Air Force. And as you can see, the jail of where he was actually booked was Madison County, um, address of 720 Central. And like I said, the Airway Motel's address was 720 Fulton County. And that is just extremely interesting. And like I said, I can't go into too much details because of the cases that are going to be going on in court. But and so as you know, he did admit to molesting more children than just me. And of course, that's why they had me standing in front of the door 5, because apparently they already knew something about there being more children involved. And children that he abused. And so the interesting thing because like I said in part 1 of the first podcast that I made about the information about the events that occurred before I went to Atlanta with the neighbor and the property and the settlement and the guardianship and that type of stuff. And as you can see, this is actually the parole office of where they're saying that he actually is. That's in Henry County. We don't know how accurate that information is. And I'm not going to say too much in detail about the reasons why we aren't sure how accurate that information is. But again, this is actually his house and this is his booking information. After he was sent back to prison, supposedly. But like I said, the address of where he lives is you could clearly see the house and the decoratables that they have around their house and stuff like that. So the interesting thing about Atlanta, Georgia, not only about the Airway Motel and the address of the Airway Motel, is also about where he was actually booked in Madison County and the address of the Madison County Jail, which is also 720. The interesting thing is Fulton County, there is a street called Wendell Drive. And the interesting thing about that is there's also a Wendell here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and it's on 21st Street. And as I said in my previous podcast, I was around the age of 21 years old when the first prostitution charge, when they first tried to charge me with a prostitution charge in Indianapolis, Indiana, and they were unable to charge me with that charge. And so the interesting thing about Wendell Drive, because that's in the same vicinity as the Airway Motel in Atlanta, Georgia at address 720. The interesting thing about that is that, like I said, there's a Wendell Drive here as well in Indianapolis, Indiana, and it's on 21st Street. And so another interesting fact that is a fact is that my mentor from Broadway Church, her name was Shirley Shazer. She actually passed when I first moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 2016. And I wasn't able to attend her funeral because it was just too much stress and pressure on me. I really loved her, and I'm not really good at funerals, you know. And so when I actually went to Atlanta, Georgia, one of the streets in the area of Fulton County on the other side of the bridge is called Shirley Boulevard. And that is in the same vicinity as where the Airway Motel is in Atlanta, Georgia. So I say that to say most of the things that happened in that story were planned, and they weren't planned from me. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, or I'm not telling the secrets of the media companies and corporations and stuff like that. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because, like I said, we will be going to court about these matters. I will not be accepting nothing. I will not be accepting zero. I will not be accepting $1. People are aware of what the truth is, and I don't need the attention. I never needed the media attention. I was happy just being an advocate and living my life. So the interesting thing is, you know, even the people that were mentioned in the story are the names of the streets that are here in Indianapolis, Indiana. So the things that were going on in Atlanta, Georgia were planned from the police departments and departments here, such as DCS and things like that. And that is what created the story in the way that it was presented to the public. Even the Miss Gail and multiple other names. I'm not going to mention the names of the people that weren't mentioned in the story, but the truth of the matter is those were character names. I was probably the only person that wasn't aware of the staging and orchestration of them reconstructing the scenes. That is something that I never agreed to. I never signed documentation saying, okay, I'll be a part of this or whatever. I thought that we were doing advocacy, that we were going to help children that were in need, that we were going to speak up against abuses that are going on in Child Protective Services and things of that nature. That is what I agreed to do. I agreed to educate. I did not agree to be a part of anything other than educating the public and helping people who need a voice, and to be a representation of how we could make the foster care system better and how we could better to help them find resources and mental health treatment and um, therapeutic things that'll help them get their lives back on track and things of that nature. That is what I agreed to. I did not agree to be a part of a circus, a zoo, a media frenzy, a YouTube helper, or none of that type of stuff. Like, I didn't agree, nor did I co-sign to be a part of nothing that was staged or orchestrated. And I was one of the only people who was unknowingly in the middle of this type of I would say media corruption, but I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to throw companies under the bus, and I don't want to ruin relationships with these media corporations. But like I said, the truth is that um like I said, even the characters that were at the Airway Motel, their names were created from streets that are here in Indianapolis. The names of the streets and the areas and stuff like that, including the Douglas County Jail, the Earl Lee Boulevard, like everything was just done to basically try to traumatize me even further. Um, And there is way more to this story than what I'm saying. But I have to be careful what I say, especially the details and the type of evidence. I have to be very careful with what I say because I don't want it to interfere with a case. Because this is real. This isn't a scandal. This isn't a scam. This isn't a lie. This isn't a joke. So I have to be careful with what I share. But I am actually the next podcast that I work on or that I share with you guys will actually be about the guardianship, the settlement, and the property. So I appreciate you guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.